There are many negative forms in Spanish that sometimes work similarly to English and sometimes don't. In this video, I'd like to explain how negatives work in the language, starting from basic words and sentences all the way to how to use them properly. First, there are some indefinite and negative words you should know in Spanish, like these ones. These words refer to people and things, but not specifically. Algo means something, alguien means someone, algún means any, and it's the only word that has gender and plurality, along with the negative version too. Siempre means always, and también means also. The negative words are nada, meaning nothing, nadie, meaning no one, ningún, meaning not any, nunca, meaning never, and tampoco, meaning neither. Even though I will not use all of these words, they're still very useful to know. At first, in English, we can have simple sentences with negatives like I do not speak French or he does not speak Italian. In Spanish, we have to use the word no by placing it before a verb, like yo no hablo francés y él no habla italiano. However, when we answer a question and the response is negative, the use of two negative words can be used, like asking, can you come today? ¿Puedes venir hoy? If the response is negative, I can say, no, I cannot come today, with two negatives in the sentence. In Spanish, the idea works the same way. If the response is negative, I can say, no, yo no puedo venir hoy. Comparing the phrase to English, the only difference is that the word not is placed after can, but no is placed before puedo, because Spanish places negatives before verbs all the time. We can also ask something like, did you go to the store? And the answer can be, no, I did not go to the store. In Spanish, the idea works the same way. ¿Fuiste a la tienda? No, yo no fui a la tienda. As always, you can make any sentence you want using simple negatives in Spanish, but it doesn't stop here. Negative words can be used in many different ways in Spanish as opposed to English. In English, you can say things like nobody eats and she never runs, and in Spanish, there are many ways you can change these sentences. You can say nadie come y ella nunca corre, which is visually more logical, but unlike English, Spanish can contain two or more negative words, especially when a sentence begins with a negative idea, with the full sentence being negative. I can say I do not eat anything with the word not before eat and with the word anything being indefinite in the sentence. In Spanish, the sentence would be yo no como nada, meaning I do not eat anything. But as you can see, Spanish has a double negative with the word nada, which means nothing. The sentence would visually be I do not eat nothing. Even though the sentence makes sense in Spanish, it doesn't make sense in English because English doesn't allow double negatives. Nonetheless, that's how negatives work in Spanish, and we can make any sentence we want. How would you say the sentence I do not see anything in Spanish? Yo no veo nada. How would you say you never eat anything? Tú nunca comes nada. How would you say he does not know anything? Él no sabe nada. That's how negatives work in Spanish. At last, there are two concepts that need more explanation involving alguien and nadie, meaning someone and no one, and algún and ningún, meaning any or not any. Because they indicate people, alguien and nadie have to use the personal a, which is used before the words. For instance, I can ask, did you see someone? And you can reply with, no, I did not see someone. In Spanish, whenever you ask about people, you will have to include the personal a, like saying, ¿viste a alguien? And you can reply with, no, yo no vi a nadie. And as you can see, the personal a is placed both in the question and answer. Additionally, nadie indicates no one, which is a third negative in the sentence, which is impossible in English, but logical in Spanish. Of course, you have to watch out for these ideas. Finally, there are the words algún and ningún, which mean any or not any, and they're the most complicated negatives in Spanish, mainly because they're the only ones that have gender and plurality. However, using them in context is not that complicated, especially when you know what the context is. Asking something like, ¿Tienes algún libro aquí? Means, do you have any book here? If you reply with a negative, the word has to match the gender and plurality, if there is one. So, the answer in Spanish would be, no, yo no tengo ningún libro aquí. No, I do not have any book here. Again, having ningún as a third negative. In case we want to pluralize the sentence, we can ask, ¿Tienes algunos libros aquí? Meaning, do you have some or any books here? And the reply can be, no, yo no tengo ningunos libros aquí. Meaning, no, I do not have any books here. In Spanish, you have three negatives, but English does not allow it. One final example can be, ¿Conoces alguna tienda por aquí? Meaning, are you familiar with any store around here? And you can reply with, no, yo no conozco ninguna. Meaning, no, I am not familiar with any. As always, you can make any sentence you want using negatives in Spanish, and hopefully, after this video, you understand how negatives work in the language.